Hello and welcome to Leviathan News. Today is June 19th, and we're here. Me and the boys. Garrett, Chief Advisor, welcome.
What's up, guys?
Yeah. So
Those
the big
squids.
news, yes, squids. So the big news today that we can start with, and I probably should have shared this last week when we published all of our stuff, but Fraxchain was announced by Frax. Try not to self-promote too hard, but it got picked up in the media, and that seems like a lot of people are talking about it. Fraxchain is a coming L2 to be launched by Frax that will be deployed pretty much by the end of the year. It will be a hybrid roll-up system that will use Frax ETH as gas, and it will support all Frax assets. So really looking forward to it.
What does
Yeah,
a
you broke
hybrid
the
roll-up
yourself.
exactly mean?
Well, a hybrid rollup is just a mixture of optimistic and ZK architecture. So it allows you to have an EVM space, but also push ZK proofs to the to ETH. But yeah,
It's super exciting. Super exciting.
Yeah,
And you're
I-
the one that broke this on the flywheel pod, right?
I did. We broke it on Flywheel Pod. The cool thing about Fraxchain is that like all the gas. So anytime anybody uses Fraxchain, they're going to have to use Frax ETH, not stake Frax ETH, but Frax ETH. And so all the Frax ETH that's being used on Fraxchain will not be staked, and additionally, which means a higher yield for stake Frax ETH. And then in addition, all the gas that's burned from transactions will go as revenue to VFXS. So it could see significant revenue increases to Frax over the next 12 months.
Nice. I saw that you also had Sam on for an interview.
Yes.
On the Flywheel.
Yep.
What were some of his takes on this transition, on like the benefits of Frax going this direction of having a Frax chain instead of any other infrastructural alternative?
Well, I mean, what would the alternatives be? I mean, I just want to know about that question first.
Like, for example, remain on Ethereum and keep like the infrastructure, the existing infrastructure now, or develop or wait for like some kind of ZK developments and then deploy Frax there.
Yeah, I think the issue really is around like being a liquidity hub, right? So when you have Fraxchain that's able to support all Frax assets and hopefully subsidize. I mean, one thing that I'd like to see is just gas subsidization. So you think about like whitelisted apps that are potentially doing, I don't know, some things, cross-chain lending or something. You could have gas subsidization because of the fees that are going back and the increased yields to stake Frax ETH. So I think there's a lot of synergies between like what the Frax has already done and Fraxchain. Like it's not just going to be another EVM or like L2 EVM because that wouldn't make sense. There has to be like specific tangible need for it so that it can be launched. But if it can do anything like what Arbitrum is doing, I mean, they're generating what I think like $7 to $8 million worth of profits a year, with another like 50 to 60 million in revenue for the sequencers. So it makes sense for Frax to control all of its like the vertical, right? That's kind of been one of the things that they've like wanted to do since the beginning, right? Is own all the verticals. And so that's why you see Fraxland, where you can essentially borrow Frax through there. Leads to a lot of like currency creation. There's Fraxswap as well too, which hasn't seen the same kind of uptick for DEXs, but some of the other products as well too really makes sense, and it all just drives increased revenue back to the protocol.
Do you think that more like the core functions of Frax would start shifting onto this L2, like governance?
No. Everything that stays on ETH. I would just assume that it becomes like a liquidity layer. Like the primary way to transfer value back and forth right now is through, you have to come back to ETH. So it's almost like a spoke system where if you want to transfer assets like Frax assets to another chain, you have to come back to ETH every single time, and that increases gas costs. So I think with Fraxchain, it'll essentially connect everything, and you'll be able to move between all the liquidity layers pretty seamlessly.
It's exciting stuff. Do you think Sam would come on to talk?
Yeah,
exactly what I was going to ask.
Yeah, definitely. I'll ask him. I'll give him a ping. Maybe he can come on this week. But we
should definitely have him on.
Yeah, we do have a super busy week for guests, actually. So maybe next week. Actually, next week is some heavy hitters that we're going to announce soon.
Amen. It's
so
going to be nice, definitely.
Another story that we talked about last week, like pretty in depth, was Michael's CRV loan position, and the Gauntlet team had proposed to freeze it after it had grown to the size that it was, which was around 30% of the total circulating supply in Aave. Well, it went to a vote, and Aave, I don't want to say unanimously, but it was rejected at Aave, and it will not pass. Actually, it was unanimous.
Why wouldn't you say unanimous? Yeah,
it was unanimous. I just checked it.
You can say it unanimously, indeed.
Wow, that's interesting.
Now, Aave governance does work a little different. So, but yeah, no one stepped up to vote no, which might have been because it was clear it wasn't going to pass. But
you think like one person would have just like put like one Aave towards no or something?
I have to admit, it was like a relief. It was a relief to me because, like, being a Curve maximalist last week was a difficult week, right? Like, we're trying to do all this innovative stuff with Curvusd, and every time we log on, it's questions about Mitch's house, and it's just like it wasn't interesting. I thought like a huge distraction. But if anything tells me that these fudsters were all hat no cattle, it's this, right? Like despite the monumental volume of FUD and memes going around about this, not one person like actually, when they're like looking at the health of the protocol and like deciding where to actually steer their votes, bothered to even like send in a symbolic no vote. So keep this in mind when you're on crypto Twitter, that it's not reality.
Is it? Well, we are making realities. Stani actually came to our Leviathan post after we posted this yesterday and said governance is spoken.
Indeed. I think it says a lot to have someone like Stani, react to these kinds of news. I think he shares your thoughts, Garrett, about just exactly how relevant this all stuff was.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it comes from Mark Zeller, friend of the show, who we talked with some time ago. Like he's been through so much of these FUD cycles. He posted a pretty entertaining meme. I'll see if I can bring it up. But basically, like he's like, there's always all this persistent FUD going around on Twitter, through crypto Twitter, like threaders, generally focusing on Aave and Curve, and like so little of it is actually justified in terms of how the protocol operates. Aave is really good at this, right? Like lending markets are difficult, and Aave has had, I don't want to say monopoly, but they've been like at the peak of their game since DeFi summer. No hacks, like very little like issues facing their protocol. So just hats off to Aave for just like figuring out this lending game and really nailing it.
I also think that people are looking for FUD with these protocols exactly because these are the interesting protocols, So what are they going to FUD? They want to FUD the interesting stuff. They don't want to FUD the stuff that are not as interesting or as integral in the DeFi world.
Speaking of integral to the DeFi world, what's going on over at Curve with Curvusd this week, Garrett?
So there's been a whole variety of new collaterals that are getting voted on being added. So there is WBTC, which could be pretty interesting. That's going to be another market of up to 200 million cap, and raw Ethereum in the form of WETH. And there's been a little bit of confusion on this front because some people are saying like, wait, why are you supporting WETH and not raw Ethereum? When they don't realize that the Curve contracts essentially handle WETH and Ethereum seamlessly. So you can actually deposit raw Ethereum and it will just wrap it directly into Ethereum. So we saw some funny memes going around last year when people were joking about like FUD around WETH specifically, like, oh no, whales are accumulating WETH. What's going to happen to the WETH supply? But it seems like there might be some similar like misinterpretations of wrapped Ethereum going around.
Let's do a quick vote internally here. Which assets do you think are going to get added to Curvusd in the future? So, Wrap Bitcoin, WETH, what's next? And we also have
So my
Steth
guess,
and Fraxchain too.
yeah, my guess would be an increase in the sFraxETH cap would be on the horizon soon. And then probably other LSTs, I think there'd be a lot of interest in. I think once Curvusd gets to maybe a few $100 billion market cap, you'd start to see Curve or possibly Curve ETH as collateral. And TriCrypto would, I think, be like some of the like major ones people are looking at. It's at some point it's going to be turned over fully to the DAO. Right now it's only available to the DAO, but you have to have the technical knowledge to submit a vote without the UI. At some point it'll just be in the UI and it's just going to be completely driven by the community.
Right. And what other? So, are there any other tokens? Like, would they list like the Uni token, for example, or Aave, for example?
I would guess Aave before Uni, just because I don't think that the Curve community, by and large, like are large Uni holders. But I could be. I know some people do hold some. I think there's going to be a huge push to onboard Curve pools as collateral. So I just look at some of the Curve pools with volume because
right,
yeah,
right. They would rather have the pools on because the pools are already like in their ecosystem and they don't actually have to like go outwards.
right. And then there's a lot of people that just have a ton of pools. There's like large Curve stakes and like various pools and would like to do something with it. So I would look at those as the source of the next ones. It's also worth pointing out that the TriCrypto factory is like live for anyone who wants to interact with it. So we might see some of the new TriCrypto pools. Like one was launched this past week with Wrapped Steth, TBTC, and Curvusd. So we might see some interesting pools similar to that getting launched and becoming forms of collateral.
Sorry, my mouse just went dead. Isn't that the worst? Like you have a wireless mouse and the battery just like dies.
Like, what are you supposed to do with the computer if you can't move the mouse? Like, you really have to be a keyboard specialist.
Exactly, yell at it. Right. So, in other big news, Zachxbt was sued by Maki Big Brother for a thread that he made, I think, last year, and from that, Zach essentially is now being sued for or is it defamation? Yeah, defamation lawsuit. And Zach put together this thread about how Jeff Huang, Maki Big Brother, embezzled 22,000 ETH over 10 projects, and he essentially went through and like looked at all the transaction data and found these interesting links. Now, I'm sure that the language probably is the thing that Maki was upset about, or Jeff was upset about. But, Jeff had a bunch of different projects, Mithril, Formosa, some actually like large ones. Like Mithril was quite large. He was involved in Cream as well too. So there was a bunch of different things that actually happened over back in 2020 and 2021. And Zach documented all this, put it into a very long thread, and now he's having to pay the price. So over the weekend, he put up a link so that people could donate to him. And last we checked, it was over $500,000. But let me just throw this into DBank.
I think it went over $1 million.
Oh, he's over $1 million now?
I think it's closing in on 2 million even. Like it's because since all that has happened, we've seen like Justin Sun stepped up, Binance stepped up, like everyone's been donating, and there's even been a Zachxbt token launched, which will send proceeds from every transaction to this address. So you could actually purchase this token, transact in it, and support Zach this way. Like Zach is like we see so many terrible actors in this space, and we need 1,000 people like Zach to actually police and clean this thing up. So like,
Yeah.
of course, the community is coming together to rally behind him, and it's like offensive that this this person, Machi Big Brother, is filing this suit in the first place, because Zach is anon, right? Like, and this lawsuit doxes him. So all of a sudden, all these people he's attacked in the past for like harming the space, like, who knows what they're going to do? So he might need to like hire private security and things like this. So if you can, get as much funds to Zach as you can, because like we need to send the message that we are not going to allow this to happen. Like, if you're stepping up to police the space, the community is going to protect you.
Yeah, so I looked on DBank, and he topped out at over $1 million, almost $1.1 million topped out at before it was removed. Still has over $100,000 in there, which is pretty awesome. So great for the community to step up.
For sure, and I think, earlier you said, Garrett, that we need 1,000 people like Zach. I think for now he's been doing the work of 1,000 people himself in the space, in many ways. And I think it was very nice to see that there are parts of the community that don't only care about stuff like Poly 0x wants 100 ETH for something or whatever. For like whatever next shield is, but on the contrary, when there's something serious to be done and someone serious from the community who actually needs its support, it was very nice to see how quickly he got in it, and he got it, and from so many different entities in the space, like Sam mentioned, or you, Binance, and all kinds of different actors that immediately jumped on the wagon as well. And I think, by the way, that the exact reason that he was sued was mainly to dox him. I don't think it's really about making him pay. Yeah, I think it's about hurting his work and putting him on that jeopardy. And I think that's exactly like what's actually under the belt, or I don't know how you say it, but definitely it's to scare him, you know what I mean? And it's to scare others that if you do stuff like he does, you will be doxxed, and you will maybe pursued in different ways. Because in my opinion, it was about that. It was about doxing him and trying to interfere with the work he does, and to intimidate others from trying to do the same. And as a community, like you said, we need these others, so we have to do what we need to do in order to support them and encourage them to keep doing what they do.
I've met Jeff once.
I know. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I met Jeff once way back when, maybe 2000.
Jeff?
Yeah, Big Brother Bucky. Jeff Huang, the guy who's suing Zach. I met him once. He was at I think it was at a convention. I can't really remember. Must have been at a convention, because he was kind of a rock star then. He had all these like random people coming up to him. He had just launched this like site called like Swag Finance. This is what like one of the early like Cream controversies is that like Jeff launches Cream and then adds
he launched Cream?
What?
He was the guy in Cream?
Yeah, he launched Cream. Yeah. And so he added this token called Swag to it, which was his like cam girl site. It was like for cam girl porn, and you would, but for like Asian cam girl porn, right? And you would use the Swag token to like pay for things similar to like Spank Chain, I guess. But they like immediately, like within a couple of days after launch, they like added it to Cream as like a borrowable asset, and it really like messed up a lot of the vibes at the time. And then like there was some stuff that happened, it got pulled, and then eventually later Cream was transferred over to Andre.
Yeah, well, look, I'm biased, and I think DeFi Advisor's biased, but Leviathan News is not. So if you want to get Jeff on the show to talk about his side of the lawsuit, like, we'd be happy to host him.
Yeah, and Zach as well, if he wants to come on the show.
Well, I mean, Zach's under, in a lawsuit now. It's probably best that he doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
But
maybe one of his lawyers wants to come on and talk about it.
yeah. And
we
both
published
sides of the lawsuit.
some very serious guys came to represent them. Brown Radnick, I think the office is called.
Exactly.
Yep, Stephen Pally, who has been around the space for a long time, and I think Zach's going to be in good hands. But yeah, the damage is done. He's essentially been doxxed by it, so that's quite a bummer. I've kind of thought this in the past. I don't know what you two think. We kind of started talking about this during Back the Bunny last podcast, where we were like saying like, could there be an SEC that does good? And the example I like to bring up is like, if we rebuilt the SEC from the ground up with Zachxbt as chief, I don't think that the SEC would be a controversial entity. I think it would be an entity that would actually like have the manpower that Zach needed to actually attack the bad actors and support the good actors in the space. And you could actually posit the existence of a good Securities and Exchange Commission. But I don't know what the two of you think about that.
I listened to Hester. I listened to Hester Peirce on Laura Shen's podcast while I was driving back from this weekend. And, it was really interesting to hear her talk, right? I think the biggest thing that she said was just like the SEC has kind of like dragged itself on rulemaking over this period and created all these like weird situations like the Promethean thing. And it's been 5 years now, right? Since they first started going after like ICOs and other stuff. And, she was just disappointed that the commission has not been able to institute an actual framework that can be used, unlike other countries like Canada, right? And so listening to her, it's not that she's like pro crypto and like everything that we're doing. She's just like wants to have a space where these companies can come in, get registered, and then operate and focus on operations rather than having to spend constant funds and revenues to pay for lawyers so that they can get letters and potentially still be liable, right?
But I think they kind of dragging it on purpose. I think their policy is to not have a policy and to not have a clear policy.
Sure, and she talked about this. I mean, like, look, at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? But the main point of what the SEC should be doing is enabling businesses to operate, right? Providing regulations with a clear path so that businesses can come in and register and then go out and make money, which at the end of the day is what everybody wants to do. Like, I don't think that Coinbase wants to spend, hundreds of millions of dollars on their legal stuff when they could have filed some paperwork back in like 2017, 2018, or whenever they went to go do their IPO, right? Like, it just makes no sense that companies that want to operate and focus on running the business are having to like be dragged through the muck of this whole SEC thing with not being able to get clear like paths on how to get towards being fully compliant. We'll just leave it at that. We can. I don't want to couch legal too much on this. We can have back on one of our legal eagles to talk about it. But at the end of the day, companies just want to run their business, and they don't want to have to like spend millions of dollars on legal fees just to be in compliance.
I agree. These are instruments that were originally made to support and assist, not clog and interfere. So I definitely agree.
So we talked about this next story 2 weeks ago, I believe. So Ethereum developers are considering raising the cap from 32 to 2048. We actually talked about going the other way of reducing the cap from 32 to 1. But because of the clogged system of validators, ETH devs are thinking about raising the cap so that large entities like Coinbase or Frax or Lido can stack essentially 64 validators on top of each other and get that voting weight into their, and so they can essentially like consolidate their large stakes that they have to reduce the strain on the queue.
Isn't that like a going to be a decentralization issue?
I don't think so. I mean, well, that's the questions, right? That is going to be talked about. That like, is it more decentralized if people can run a validator node for $1,000 even with their stake, or do you want to have enough at stake where it's like, you know, $60,000? Like how much entry should there be for people to run these things? And additionally, like the reality of the LSD system is that like the consolidators don't really care. They're just going to spin up these validators anyways. So for people that have like large amounts of ETH, like millions of ETH, and that's consolidated into like a DAO or a protocol or something, just let them, you know, like roll it up into one validator.
So I admit I need to like go back and read the source material, so I'm speaking uneducated. But question here: if you have one validator with twice the ETH, does that mean you have twice the chance of being selected to build a block?
No, it's just the ETH. Like the ETH just sits in whatever address you're getting. So if you have two
Right.
validators, right? The 32
if you have two
ETH
validators, if you have two validators, you get twice the chance of being able to like generate a block. So it would still be in all the protocol's interests to divide it up, right? If they lose that chance, if they roll it all up into one validator.
No, I don't think it works like that. I think I think there's more nuance to it than that. So,
so again, I need to read the source material. So ignore anything I have to say.
Exactly, unqualified opinions here. Okay, moving on. We have the Euler hacker, Euler hacker, who sent a message. He was like, "Don't steal. Don't be stupid." That's essentially what he said. And he also said he was Argentinian as well too. Buen Aave, which means Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
Yes. To all the beautiful people who are all Argentines.
Went the Robin Hood way, in a way, it seems like, at least poetically.
And he said, if there is an Argentine hacker and a Peronist, it's me, no one else. And he wrote it in Spanish. And he said, for hackers who are just starting out, don't be stupid, don't steal, do bounties, etc. So this hacker used vulnerability in the Euler code to steal $200 million. And didn't they get it back? They were able to return it. Yeah. So they recovered all of the recoverable funds. And because he converted some of it into ETH and the price of ETH rose during the negotiations, they recovered all of the stolen crypto and then some. So good for him.
Indeed.
And then do you want to talk about this Beyond the Board article, Garrett?
I'd like to. Another thing I haven't read, I was touching grass this weekend, so I'm still playing catch up on all the crypto news.
Okay, we'll come back. We'll come back about it later this week. I think it's a good place to wrap up. The Zachxbt stuff definitely will include the donation link in the show notes, and also the more information about Fraxchain. So, thank you for tuning in today to Leviathan News and Squids. We will see you back tomorrow for the longest day of the year.
Nice.
Yeah. All right.
Summer is here.
It is. So until the tide returns, we'll see you Squids tomorrow.
Goodbye, guys.